Manchester City just beat Arsenal 2-1 at the Etihad. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let's get straight into it because Arsenal have bottled it again. No, City isn't first yet, right? But now everything is in City's hands. If City win midweek against Burnley, which they probably will, City go first. Like they put everything on City's hands now. Arsenal have bottled it. They have bottled it. They were 10 points clear not too long ago. And look, let's calm down a little bit and talk a little bit about the game because it started off in a very City-like way. It started off how City wanted it to start. Arsenal were pressing. They were a little bit more on the front foot than previous weeks, but it still wasn't enough because it's something that have Arsenal haven't really planned for in the or haven't even really practiced for or trained for. It wasn't really their thing. They were pressing moments, but City are so calm on the ball, and it was a good Arsenal press, right? It was pretty good. But City's calmness on the ball and Arsenal's lack of confidence, you could tell it when City would get the ball and pass and move, and they would get beat the press pretty easily. And they around the minute 15, Turkey with an amazing goal, taking on Gabriel, taking on Rice, taking out his this defenders face front. Right in front of him, running right straight towards him, takes on Gabriel, takes on Rice, and scores a beautiful, beautiful goal. And when this happened, I said it's happening because I said if City score in the first 10 to 15 minutes, I think it could be a demolition of Arsenal. I think they would destroy Arsenal 3-1, 4-1. But not even a minute later, or maybe a minute later, I think it was Kuzanov or Nunez passes the ball to Donnarumma, and Donnarumma takes so long to get rid of it. Kai Havertz presses him, very good press by him, and they score off the bounce. And then this is where the Etihad sounded silent. Everything went cold. Manchester City players' faces went down. But this is where you see the experience. This is where you see City push the head back up. Bernardo Silva back on the ball. Rodri back on the ball. Haaland back on the battling with the center backs. Kuzanov, Gehi back, their heads up. Donnarumma mistake, fine. But they keep playing their game. They keep playing the game. They don't let it distract them as heavily as when Arsenal concede. When Arsenal concede, their heads go down and things happen, right? Not in this moment specifically, but in other moments. And the first half ends, right? And in that first half, I just didn't feel like Arsenal really did much. It was a pretty slow ending to the first half. I don't think there was really much to it. But the thing is, with this type of game, with such huge, huge things on the line, the Premier League is on the line. It's intense. So you're always on the front. You're always standing up. You're always waiting to see what happens. You're always waiting to see if someone makes a mistake, if a pass breaks the lines. You're always ready to see if something happens. And in the first half, near the end, nothing really came about. Second half, Martinelli comes on for Madueke, which I thought Martinelli would have started this game because of the runs in behind, because of everything related to that. But no, Madueke started, gets taken off at halftime after a trash performance. Or I don't know if it's a trash performance or if it's a normal Madueke performance. Because let's be honest, if we have Madueke starting in a game of this caliber, something's wrong with the clubs, with the way they're spending their money. But that putting that aside, Martinelli comes on, and I thought it would be a good substitution. I would think that Martinelli is going to make a couple more runs behind. He's going to be a bit more defensive with Jeremy Doku. Come back and help him out. Come back and help with O'Reilly. I mean, and look, from there on, there was moments, right? The second half was a very moments type of game. It wasn't like one team was dominating. It wasn't like the other team was dominating. I think it was huge, big moments for both sides, and Arsenal had a good amount of big moments that you can see they lack quality up front. They lack quality, whether it's Kai Havertz, whether it's Jokeres, whether it's Madueke, whether it's Martinelli, whether it's Trossard, even Saka. They lack quality, game winning quality, title winning quality. Because although Kai Havertz scored against Sporting a week and a half ago, in these type of moments against the likes of Kuzanov, against the likes of Gehi, against Donnarumma as a shot blocker, you need a world class person. You need the striker who's gonna score the goals, who's gonna fight, who is a finisher, who is lethal, who is world class, and maybe not even just like creme de la creme. Someone that's a very very good goal scorer, striker, whatever, winger, you name it. And you could just tell they lacked up there. They lacked it. Eze hit the post once. I think it was a very good hit by Eze. What else? Kai Havertz to the header at the end. I just couldn't believe he missed that. When Kai Havertz got in the air, I was like, oh, they're gonna tie the game. It's done. The title race is done. Arsenal are gonna take it. They're gonna get their draw. But no, Kai Havertz missed. How do you miss those? You're a striker that went for what 65 million. You're playing in the team that's number one in your league right now. You're the starting striker. How do you miss that? That's a sitter for a striker. Any other striker would have scored that. Any striker would have. Danny Welbeck scores that. And Calvert Lewis scores that. Most Premier League strikers score that goal. Isidore scores that. I could keep going down the list. Every other striker in the Prem probably scores that. That's like the perfect cross for a striker to score. That is the perfect. He was alone. No one was pushing him. No one was jumped up with him. He was alone, and he missed that. How? How do you miss that as a Premier League striker that went for 65 million? I don't understand how you can miss such a chance like that in the last minute for such an important game for your team. And then, like I said, they hit the post a couple of times. Gabriel had a header that O'Reilly hit his rib cage. And Arsenal had some chances. They had some very good chances. But on the other hand, City don't they had if they have two or three chances, they're gonna at least score one of them. At least score one of them. Beautiful play. Donnarumma passes off to O'Reilly. O'Reilly drives through the entire pitch, passes it to Doku, and Doku lays it, put amazing through pass to Haaland, who's battling Gabriel the entire game. The entire game, they're pushing each other, they're pulling each other, they're ripping each other's shirts, they're dragging, they're headbutting, they're fighting. And in the most important moment, Haaland beats Gabriel to score the winning goal. And look, you could defend Haaland at the middle of the pitch, right? You can push Haaland around and battle him out in the middle of the pitch. But you have to win your duels in the box. Gabriel has to win his duels in the box. Yes, Haaland might have lost some of the duels in the midfield, in the middle of the pitch. He might have lost some duels outside the box against them, but when it was in the box, Haaland beat Gabriel with a beautiful finish. I think it was a very hard, tough finish for a regular striker, but for Haaland, it is a Haaland striker goal, and they win the game. And look, I want to talk about some key points here. You're losing. I'll talk about Mikel Arteta real quick. You're losing 2-1. You're losing. The title is on the line. If you don't win, you're gonna put the title in City's hands. If they win their games, they win everything. And you take out Eze and bring on Trossard. You take out Eze, and I know Eze didn't have the best of games. Don't get me wrong. Eze did not have a great game at all, right? But some of the chances that Arsenal had were down to Eze. Eze had just hit the post. Eze felt you could feel that Eze was getting a little bit more into the game, into the rhythm. He quick turns and taking a shot, quick turns and making a pass. Coming down and getting the ball. And then you just can't take out probably your most creative player, because although you guys love to talk about Odegaard, or a lot of people talk about Odegaard, Eze is more creative than Odegaard. That's a fact. Eze is more creative than Odegaard. He has bigger goals and bigger moments than Odegaard. And you take him out, and I understand. Like I said, he didn't have the best of games, but I feel like you were able to notice that he was getting into it. He took a shot that hit the post. He was finding spaces. He was finding angles. And you take out Eze for Trossard, who came in and did absolutely nothing. Gyökeres came in and he didn't get any chance because Eze is pretty much the player that always finds Gyökeres. Eze is a player that always tries to look for Gyökeres, tries to look for his runs, and it just wasn't there. Odegaard was between the center backs. Rice was between the center backs. Why is your midfield right next to your center backs when you're losing? You're losing. I understand if it's one midfielder coming down to get the ball and create play, But Odegaard would go down between the center backs and pass it back to Saliba, pass it back to Gabriel, and it was funny to me, right? Because when you're a midfielder and you go down to get the ball from the center backs, you try and pass forward, you try and find a pass between the lines, you try to switch play, but Odegaard would go down, pick up the ball from the center backs, and give it back to the center backs. I found it funny. I think it's something that's very interesting to see in the team of this level, or that we think is of that level. And City took their chances. Ryan Cherky was immense in that first half. The second half, he was slacking pretty a lot in the second half. In the second half, he was misplacing so many passes. O'Reilly was amazing. You look at O'Reilly, right? Is he better in midfield? Is he better at left back? O'Reilly could do it all, man. I love O'Reilly. I thought he would get a goal today, and he was very close to it a couple of times when he was in the box. But that goal for the highlight for the winner, the way he opens up and then comes and then makes the run inside to pick up the ball from Donnarumma's throw, I think was amazing. Picks up the ball, and other players, oh they got, would just get the ball and take a little bit of time on the ball, try and look for the pass, but no. O'Reilly got the ball and ran the length of the pitch and then go to Doku. And when he passed it to Doku, he didn't just stay still. He made the run to keep going to open up the space for Doku. And that's the high. That's not just a physical. Yes, he's 6'5". Yes, he's very physical. He's very athletic, but the IQ, the IQ in O'Reilly is so good. Whether he's in midfield, whether he's a fullback, whether he's out wide and high flying, whether he's inverting, O'Reilly can do it all. Whether it's a goal and assist, he can do it all. I love O'Reilly so much. He's been so good in big games, and then he kept his winger. He kept Martinelli quiet. He kept Madueke quiet. When he had a goal against someone else, he would keep them quiet. And O'Reilly was so good today. I think he was alongside a certain man of the match. And let's talk about him. Bernardo Silva was class. Bernardo Silva was everywhere. This man defended striker Havertz. In a one-on-one, Kai Havertz was one-on-one against Bernardo Silva in a physical battle. It wasn't like a one-on-one face-to-face. No, it was a physical battle, and Bernardo Silva got the better of him. Yes, 30-something-year-old Bernardo Silva, whose last season is at City this season, battled it out physically with Kai Havertz and got the ball at the end of it. Wow. Bernardo Silva, he was everywhere. He was dictating tempo. He was controlling play. He was making runs. He was defending. Bernardo Silva is my personal man of the match. I know Haaland got the goal, and he had a very good battles with Saliba and Gabriel. But for me, my man of the match, it has to be Bernardo Silva. He was so good today. He was so good today. Whether it was defending, whether it was attacking, whether it was running into space, whether it was dictating play, it was everywhere. He was so good. He didn't stop running. And for me, Bernardo Silva is probably the heart of this team. You know Pep loves him. He's the player under Pep that's played the most. I don't know if it's for him in general or for just for City, but he's one of those players. Pep loves him, and watching him is just a joy to watch. I love watching Bernardo. And then Rodri had a very good game. Kuzanov. I told you guys about Kuzanov. I told you guys he is so good. At the beginning of the season, I told you guys how good he was. Kuzanov is so good. I know Gay is very good. He's very solid. He's a defender I like a lot. I wanted him at Madrid. There's a video out there on my YouTube about me talking about Gay and Warren to Madrid because I like him so much like that. But for me, Kuzanov stops everything. He literally stops everything. If you have speedy attackers, he stops them. If you have physical attackers, he stops them. You know, we've seen when the Carabao Cup final, we saw him deal with Gyökeres on the speed and physical side aspect of it. And today we saw him deal with Kai Havertz, who's more of a ball to man type of striker that he's going to protect the ball. And we saw him deal with that type of striker too. So Kuzano for me was immense. Mateus Nunes had a solid game. Rodri, I talked about Bernardo Silva, my man of the match. Haaland was very good. Doku was dangerous, but a lot of very wasteful. I think Doku, there was a lot of moments where Doku could find the pass or maybe a cross or maybe put in a better cross. But overall, I think he was very dangerous. He kept Mosquera on his toes. And for me, Semenyo was probably one of the weakest ones. I don't think Semenyo had a very good game. If Semenyo had a better touch I feel like they would have scored another two. There's a couple of moments where Rodri would switch it to Semenyo, and he would just miscontrol it when he could have gone on one with the keeper. But that being said, Mikel Arteta and Pep Guardiola at the end of the season, Pep Guardiola, man, he's just different. The way he has the City playing. I think there was a stat that City has only lost one game in the last 20 games for City, which is crazy. When I've talked about them not being able to go on runs, they haven't gone on winning runs. But I feel like now they're proving me wrong. I think they're been going on that winning run. And then what else? Oh, I talked about Eze. I talked about taking Eze out. Gabriel Saliba. I want to talk about Arsenal's defense, right? Gabriel Saliba, Mosquera, Hincapié, Zubimendi, and Rice, right? Because Rice, for me, did nothing. He did for me. He didn't do anything. When you expect from the best midfielder in the Premier League, you expect him to pull out performances in these type of games, and he didn't. He got outplayed by Bernardo Silva and Rodri. Came in Zubimendi got outclassed by them too. Outplayed, outclassed, outran, anything. They got anything Rodri, anything Rice and Zubimendi did this game. Rodri and Bernardo Silva did it 10 times better. That's a fact. And that defense, man, that was what was keeping them safe the entire season. That's what got them to the position they are right now. Their defense. Rice Zubimendi in front of Saliba, in front of Gabriel, in front of Hincapié, in front of Julian Timber, Ben White, Mosquera, whoever you want to put. This is their defense. What was keeping them in this position, and the amount of goals they've conceded. They conceded two against Bournemouth, two against City, two against City the other time. They conceded to Southampton. Their defense is falling, which means the team is breaking. And that is something that Mikel Arteta has to deal with because if they go out and lose next weekend, I think they have Newcastle. Arsenal have to play Newcastle, and which is a tough game, especially with Tonali. I think Tonali's back fit. I think Bruno is back fit. I'm pretty sure. And man, if they drop points to Newcastle, I think it's done. Like actually, it's done if they drop points to Newcastle, because I think City will go out against Burnley in the midweek in their game in hand, and I think they'll win that. I think I'm pretty confident that they'll beat Burnley, like pretty confident. And if they beat Burnley, I think it might be like by 3 or 4 goals. They might beat Burnley 3-4-0, which will put their goal difference, way above Arsenal's. And I don't think Arsenal score that much, or I think Arsenal drop points to Newcastle because Newcastle against Arsenal always show up. For some reason, Newcastle against Arsenal always show up. And look, I know the entire season I've been saying, can City win 5 in a row, 5 games in a row? Can they go on runs? They might look. They might. I think they might go out and win the rest of the games. And even if they drop or tie a game, I still think Arsenal will keep dropping points. And I think Arsenal have another loss or two in them this season. I think they still have another loss, maybe against Newcastle or against Crystal Palace or whoever. I still think they have another loss in the rest of the season, which will be detrimental to their season, to everything they've been trying to do. And can I see City losing? No, I can't see City losing right now. And everything's about momentum when it comes to the end of the season. Because if it comes to the end of the season and you haven't won, I don't think they've won. They only won the Sporting game, I think, in the last 5 or 6. Right? No, I think it was like 6 or 7 games that they've only won against one game, and it was Sporting in the last minute. I think Arsenal have another loss or two in them this season, which is terrible. And I could see them losing. I could see them dropping points. On the other hand, City, they look amazing. They look better than they've ever looked. They just have to focus on FA Cup. They just have to focus on the league games. And then Carlos Santos, if you ask me, Carlos, who's gonna win the title? I think Manchester City have pushed everything to their side, and I think Manchester City are going to win the Prem. I really do now. Everything is not only the form, it's not only the game today, it's everything. Arsenal don't look anything like themselves, and the way the Arsenal mentality is right now, right? Well, it's always been genuinely not just the players, but the fans. The fans were losing, right? The players, the game, they were losing the game 2-1. It's one goal difference. They weren't losing 3-0. They weren't losing 4-0. They were losing by one goal. One goal. And Arsenal fans' heads were down. They were shaking. Like there was, I think it was 20 minutes left, and Arsenal fans were already crying. They already had their hair down. They were already out of it. And it's one goal. It's one goal, and they were close to it. But it just shows their mentality. It just shows what how they see things. They just see it. Just you could. It's just noticeable when it comes to their mental side of it. City have it, and Arsenal don't. And right now, Arsenal are out of it. Like mentally, they're out of it. All of their players probably think that it's done. Arteta said, "I'm on fire. We're on fire. I'm on fire." City just put out that fire in 2 weeks, and they're done. That fire is out. It's done. And City, I think, have officially are the front runners for the Premier League. And I think that at the end of the season, Manchester City will be the ones to lift out the Premier League trophy after Arsenal bottled a 10-point lead. Yeah, Manchester City are going to take it. Make sure to like and subscribe because we have a lot more content coming. And yeah, peace.